This is Mac OS Ken.
Epic turns Fortnite in for review, a whiplash of stories from Brazil, and the new Pope's apparently a tech guy. It is Monday, the 12th of May, 2025. He's not going to come fix your printer. He's into tech. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Insta360's new X5. Get an invisible selfie stick when you buy an X5 standard bundle at store.insta360.com with code MacOSCan. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSCan. Epic CEO Tim Sweeney kept saying last week that the Battle Royale title Fortnite might be back in Apple's App Store last week. I'm not sure, though, how he thought that would happen, waiting as he apparently did until Friday to submit the app for approval. That aside, the process is underway. A piece from Engadget cited a post on the Hell site on Friday that had the Fortnite account saying, "We've submitted Fortnite to Apple for review so it can launch on the App Store in the US. Interestingly, another piece on the submission from 9 to 5 Mac says the version turned in offers both Apple's in-app purchase system and an external payment option via the Epic Games Store. So now it's just a matter of time, huh? Well, not necessarily. According to 9 to 5 Mac, despite recent policy changes forced by a federal injunction, Apple is not legally required to approve the app. Still, rejecting Fortnite could deal Apple a blow in the court of public opinion, according to the piece, especially as its standing with developers continues to slip. That is an angle Epic seems to be working hard. The aforementioned Engadget piece says the company has announced the formation of standalone web shops, offering another way for developers to avoid Apple's App Store fees. The shops are powered by Epic Games Store and offer a platform for out-of-app purchases as a more cost-effective alternative to in-app purchases. Whether that will appeal to consumers sporting Apple gear remains to be seen. While it may appeal to some developers, one wonders how fast they'll dive in. Apple is appealing the recent ruling against the Cupertino company and its anti-steering policies. It's possible developers won't be interested in a system that could go away again in the coming months. Then again, they may go for the short money and hope that numbers will sway the court in Epic's direction. This story is never, ever, ever going to end. Ever. Is Apple building iPhone in Brazil to import into the US? It depends on who you ask. If you ask Apple Insider, they'll tell you that Apple says no. They don't say where or when Apple said that, they just say that that's what Apple said. However, the same piece has Brazilian publication Exame saying, yes they are. Except probably in Portuguese. According to Apple Insider, Exame published a report saying that Foxconn was expanding its facilities in southern Brazil to make iPhones for export to the US. This in the face of continued trade instability between the US and China. Apple Insider says Apple says that is not the case, and that the iPhones being made in Brazil are being made for Brazil, not for export. I will point out again that Apple Insider doesn't cite a source for that, a point that becomes important when Apple Insider says Exame has pretty much doubled down on its claim, while Apple Insider points out that Exame is presenting the story now as if it is confirmed, though it is still unclear, and there is no cited basis for the claim. According to the report, the specific claim is that Foxconn is expanding production in order to export iPhones to the US because Brazil faces a lower reciprocal tariff than China. This is also the specified claim that Apple has previously denied. And don't you worry your pretty little head about when or where. or who, or what they said exactly. True or not, the modernization of Foxconn assembly in Brazil would make sense. At present, Apple Insider says Foxconn makes the iPhone 13 through iPhone 15 in Brazil, though only the entry-level models, not the Pro or Pro Max versions. While the same piece says Foxconn was recently granted authorization to make iPhone 16 in the country, a piece last month from BGR had iPhone 16e already being produced in the country. It's hard not to see such talk as helpful for Apple in the face of Trump's China tariffs. BGR gets in on that fun, saying while Brazil represents an important market for Apple, the Foxconn factory doesn't appear to have grown much over the past decade. Still, as navigating Trump's second term might be an issue for Apple in the long run, says the piece, opting to make low-end devices in Brazil could help mitigate potential price increases in the US and other markets. Now, if you think those stories about Apple and Brazil were confusing, hang on to your chapéu. In early March, a Brazilian court gave Apple 90 days to open up the iOS ecosystem to third-party apps in the country, just like the company did in the European Union. In mid-March, another Brazilian court said never mind. Then roughly 2 months later, this past Friday, yet another court said, on second thought. 9to5Mac ran that news late last week, citing local reports. The piece says a federal court has reinstated the original injunction and reset Apple's 90-day deadline to implement the changes in Brazil. The piece indicates that Apple could appeal the reversal, and there is little doubt that it will. That said, between rulings from the European Union and the recent ruling in the Epic case, 9to5Mac doesn't see Apple's appeal prospects as promising. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, Insta360, and their new 360-degree camera, X5. You probably know Insta360, makers of action cameras, 360-degree cameras, editing software, and more. I use one of their webcams, and it's fantastic. Well, just a few weeks ago, they launched a new 360-degree camera, the Insta360 X5. New unit features 8K 360-degree video and enhanced low light performance for all-angle shooting, day or night. Larger sensors deliver 8K video with amazing clarity, including night shooting that yields unprecedented detail. The included lenses are made from tougher optical glass, giving it superior drop resistance, and you can drop these things deep. You can shoot underwater down to 49 feet without a dive housing. We'll talk about more features throughout the week. In the meantime, though, you should check it out for yourself. Head to store.insta360.com to see what they have and use code MacOSKen for a free 45-inch invisible selfie stick with your X5 standard bundle purchase. The pole disappears from 360-degree footage, leaving people to wonder how you get the shots you got. It's a $24.99 value, but it's free for the first 30 people who go to store.insta360.com and buy an X5 standard bundle with code MacOSKen. Shoot every angle at once. Get your free invisible selfie stick when you buy an X5 standard bundle with code MacOSKen at store.insta360.com. Sony's made paying easier for Apple Pay users on PS5. A piece from 9to5Mac says the gaming/entertainment console now facilitates Apple Pay via visual code. Using the same system as Apple Pay via Chrome and other third-party browsers, the piece explains how it works. When checking out on a PS5, users will be offered the Apple Pay option. Choose that, and a unique code that you can scan with your iPhone or iPad will pop up. Scan the code, and the regular Apple Pay checkout sheet will show on your iPhone or iPad. Choose your card, authenticate with Face ID or Touch ID, and You just bought yourself something. Or picked up the digital rights for however long they're available. Anyway, the same system is headed to PS4. That'll hit with a forthcoming software update according to the report. No word on when that'll happen. And finally today, if you're not a Catholic or a native of Chicagoland, news around Pope Leo XIV may have left you feeling left out. Well, get ready for a bit of fellowship, let's say. The new Pope wears an Apple Watch. A piece from Phone Arena says many noticed that the pontiff was wearing an Apple Watch during his first official Holy Mass. It's a small thing. Literally. Figuratively? Well, that's interesting to think about. First, if he has an Apple Watch, he almost definitely has an iPhone, since to do much of anything, an Apple Watch has to be paired with an iPhone. Of course, he could be wearing the watch to monitor his health, which means the watch could be paired to an iPhone owned by the Vatican. Except he's been seen wearing an Apple Watch before. One Reddit user found and linked to a picture of the Pope, then a cardinal, blessing people and wearing an Apple Watch sometime last year. Also, he's used Twitter to call out U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance over whether Jesus would want his followers to love some people more than others. So, Twitter user, Apple Watch wearer, we live in an age and time where when the Pope talks about technology, he's probably not just talking theoretically anymore. I never thought a story about the Pope would make me say the words, "We live in the future." macOS Ken, brought to you by me, and sponsored by Insta360's new X5. Get an invisible selfie stick when you buy an X5 standard bundle at store.insta360.com with code macOSCAN. This show is also supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSCAN. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can find me on Mastodon, macOSCAN at mastodon.social. You can also send me an email, info@macosken.com. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.